right, so ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court just handed down a ruling that feels like common sense, but apparently needed to be clarified in today's world. Here we are. And so in a major blow to Gavin Newsom, the court ruled that parents have the right to be notified if their child decides to transition at school. Yeah, we're here now. The fact that this even had to go to the Supreme Court tells you how far this debate has gone. Parents being informed about their own kids should not be controversial, but I mean, here we are. As always, if you do enjoy the content, go ahead and make sure you smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know. Stay locked in with future videos. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on those notification bells. That way YouTube never forgets to let you know when I drop. Let's get right into it.
A big victory for parents' rights in California. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled 6-3 in favor of an emergency appeal to overturn a state policy barring schools from notifying parents if their child asks to change pronouns or identify as a different gender in class. The majority wrote this: parents with sincere religious beliefs about sex and gender have a right to raise their children according to those beliefs, and that California's policy violated that.
All right, and so there you have it. And so while it's good news that the Supreme Court came to this decision, let me say this. It shouldn't take a parent's religious beliefs to determine whether they have the right to be informed about their own child. Let's keep this simple. That's their child. The child is a minor. The parent is legally responsible for them. That should be enough. We don't need to bring religion into this particular situation to understand how ridiculous this debate was to begin with. But let's go to CNN for more. Take a listen.
That's right, Jake. And these have just come in, and both were decided by the conservative supermajority prevailing over the dissents of the court's 3 liberals. The first involves a California education policy that prevents teachers from informing parents about a student's gender expression. If a middle schooler, for example, and there were middle schoolers at issue in this case, want to transition and use different gender pronouns, the school policy there in California was that parents could not be told. Today, the Supreme Court temporarily blocked that policy from being in effect as it goes to parents who had challenged it, saying that no, parents, the state had said it was intended to protect trans minors from rejection and abuse at home. The Supreme Court didn't buy it at this point, and as I say, it's over the dissent of 3 liberals.
So the argument coming from the state, from Gavin Newsom's side, is that these policies were meant to protect kids from potential rejection or abuse at home. And look, I understand. There's concern there. Nobody wants a child to be harmed. That's true. But here's my question. Since when does what a child want automatically override what a parent believes is best? When did that happen? That's the job of the parent. Once someone becomes an adult, they can make their own decisions. That's how this thing works. But we're talking about minors, kids, and children can be influenced by many things: social media, friends, trends, whatever's in the air that week. One day is identity, the next day is something else. That's part of being young and impressionable. And so the idea that a school should navigate something this significant without the parents being informed, that's where a lot of people are going to draw the line no matter what your political party. And in my opinion, is why a lot of Americans don't trust the modern liberal leadership to make common sense decisions, especially when it comes to children. The Democrat Party has moved so far left that we're now having debates about definitions that used to be universally understood. Instead of grounding in policy and clarity and responsibility, everything has to revolve around validating whatever someone feels in the moment, even when we're talking about kids. And listen, understand this. Gavin Newsom was perfectly fine being a spokesperson for this entire agenda until it stopped being politically advantageous. Now he's trying to rebrand himself as some moderate Democrat, but the receipts don't disappear. Take a listen.
So we didn't get into trans sports. That's an issue no one wants to hear about because 80% of the people listening disagree with my position on this. But it comes from my heart, not just my head. It wasn't a political evolution. It
Your
was
position being that
I don't think it's. I want to see trans kids. I have a trans godson. There's no governor that's signed more pro-trans legislation than I have, and no one has been a stronger advocate for the LGBTQ community.
So what do you say to people who say, well, this sounds all very good, but Governor, you were the poster boy for a lot of this stuff. I see today the Trump administration is they talked about, I don't know if this is true, but they talked about the fact that California had a rule that schools cannot be required to notify parents if their kids in school have changed their gender, their pronouns. That's the kind of thing, even though it doesn't affect a lot of people, that makes a lot of people go, well, you know what? That's the party without common sense. Now, if that's your state, how are you?
Well, I just disagree with that. I mean, the law was you would be fired. A teacher would be fired if a teacher did not report or snitch on a kid talking about their gender identity. I just think that was wrong. I think teachers should teach. I don't think they should be required to turn in kids. And by the way,
we're talking about their parents. How can you snitch? The idea of a snitch and a parent to me doesn't compute.
Well, I don't. But what is the job of a teacher? It's to teach. If Johnny's talking about some identity issue or some issue about liking someone of the same sex, is the teacher's job to then report that? By the way, in this law, the teacher can still do that, but they can't be fired if that's it can't be fired if that's not what they do. And that's something I think is, I just think that was fair.
I'm sorry. This guy's ridiculous. If you think for 1 second that the only job a teacher has is to teach, you are far more delusional than I thought. Teachers wear many hats in the classroom. Of course, teaching is the priority, but it's not the only thing they encounter on a daily basis. And if you think teachers informing a parent about something as serious as a child wanting to change their pronouns or identify as something that they're not, if you see that as snitching or turning them in, that's part of the problem. But it's part of the course for someone like Gavin Newsom. And listen, at this point, conservatives can only hope Gavin Newsom wins the Democrat primary come 2028, because whoever runs on the Republican side would have an easy time making him look like a complete fool. Gavin Newsom is a snake oil salesman, ladies and gentlemen. And you got to be out your mind to look at how he governed and what he's done to California and then decide that's the guy I want to run the entire country. But somehow he's convinced himself that he has a real shot. And honestly, I can't blame him completely when you look at how dysfunctional the Democrat Party is right now. But coming up in this next clip, notice what he's not doing. He's not addressing this issue head on. No, he's busy obsessing over the moves Trump has made, specifically with strikes on Iran, as if anyone should be taking lectures from the governor who helped run one of the greatest states in the country into the ground. But take a listen.
4 service members died today, and Donald Trump spent more time talking about his ballroom than he did about the loss of those lives. Review the tape. Spend more time talking about the curtains and his ballroom than he did the 4 service members that died because of his operation in his declaration of war without congressional consent. He still has not articulated clear vision of what the end game is, period, full stop. There's no War Powers Act that's been exercised. I'm glad Congress is doing its job this week. Energy prices are up across the globe. Oil prices are up. Gas prices are going up. Every $10 increase in a barrel is roughly 24 cents per gallon that you'll be paying more because of Trump's war. Unfunded war, as he's cutting food stamps because he says he can't find money, as he's cutting taxes to the most well-heeled and well-off. They didn't even ask for those tax cuts. As he's cutting Medicaid programs, and people are struggling with affordability. After he quite literally doubles down on stupid, meaning the existing policies of this administration at the State of the Union, offering no new strategies and no pivot from an economy that's slowing down with the worst job growth since 2013, inflation that is now going back up. The only saving grace was gas prices, and now they're spiking up. The markets are down. Crypto has collapsed. He said we would become wealthier and healthier under his administration. We're sicker and poorer.
I'm sorry. I can't stop laughing at this guy. No one should take Gavin Newsom seriously. All those problems were already happening in his state. And because of how he governed California, they didn't even get to fully benefit from anything the current administration did to improve the economy. No. And so while he may be right in pointing out the shift since the Iran attack, if there's anybody who should honestly just sit this one out, it's him. But this is the Democrat playbook, right? Blame Trump, oppose Trump, repeat. But someone like Gavin Newsom, who I wouldn't trust to run a self-serve car wash, can get away with it because a large part of the Democrat base will go along with it. But that only works because of the mental backflips required to ignore everything he's done that contributed to California's decline. You name it, he's done it.
You've got a number of Iranian vessels that were directly impacted, oil tankers. We've got, again, Gulf allies that are almost universally being attacked and under assault. Safe places like the UAE under attack, under assault. It's now a proxy war that's extended in Lebanon and Hezbollah. You saw the actions there and the deaths and likely retaliation. So now we have the prospect of a regional war. And so, yes, we are specifically to your question, and give you a little bit of background and insight, had extensive conversations over the weekend, gaming out worst case scenarios as it relates to access of imports, as it relates to the ongoing issues around refineries, as it relates to past.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gavin Newsom is a guy cosplaying as someone who thinks he knows how to actually govern. Problem is, we have far too much evidence that tells us otherwise. Unless you're drinking the liberal Kool-Aid and willing to believe anything, there's no serious way to take this guy at face value. The record is the record. And if he somehow does win the primary come 2028, which, like I said, is possible given the current field, that might end up being the biggest gift the Republican Party could ask for. But those are my thoughts in the update. Now let me hear from you. Drop your comments down below. As always, smash that thumbs up button if you do enjoy the video. That's the best way to let me know. And to stay locked in with future videos, subscribe to the channel. Until next time.